Hello, grade 12s. Mr. Cunningham here. Um, Excited to um, move forward, I guess you could say. Excited to do something fresh with you guys and actually get to talking about 1984. I know that, I think that a fairly high proportion of you read it, and I'm not sure why I think that. It's just a suspicion that I have, or a feeling that I have. Um, so it should be good. Given that high proportion, if that's even true, it's a bit of a shame that we will not be able to fully or properly kind of dive into it, um, because it is such a great book. It is such a prophetic book. Um, and anyway, it is what it is. So we're going to have to make do. And these little videos are going to have to suffice. And we'll talk more, as I mentioned in the Slack today, we'll talk more about the essay at the end of this unit and what that will actually entail. We'll see where we are in time when we actually get through this. I'm only going to do, as I said on Slack last week, I think, I'm only going to do a couple of these a week because, again, not looking to overwhelm you or anything. I know you have other courses, etc., etc. So um, we'll just kind of play it by ear, as I think the entire world is doing right now. So anyway, as I mentioned before, the idea here is to day by day take a look at some criticisms and how they would apply to 1984. So essentially, this slideshow is going to go through a select number, not obviously not all, because not all of them work very well. So the ones that work well, we'll take a look at, and we'll take a look at them, and there'll be little tasks that you can do, just very similar to the short stories unit where you read a story and did some notes on it. Very similar, just without the reading. Okay, so let's get going here. Just want to say briefly, I made this slide myself. I was pretty proud of that a couple years ago. So, no big deal. YouTube link. That YouTube link is to the Thug Notes video that I put on the general page here in Slack. It's an amusing recap and slash analysis of the story if you'd like to check it out. Okay, so first of all, we are going to do moral criticism. And I might have lied earlier when I said that I made that slide. It's these slides I made. So apologies. Apologies for that. So anyway, moral criticism in 1984. So if we were in class, we would do the following things, and I'm going to suggest that you do them in your notebook. These are not for evaluation. You're not handing them in, but they will not take you very much time, and they will help you kind of sort out how a moral criticism would fit with 1984. In addition, all of these things are kind of like practice for what you would do in an essay situation. So if you decided to write an essay on 1984 using moral criticism to form your thesis, so your thesis is going to be something around the morality in 1984, then an excellent place to start would be with these little sort of tasks. So you'd want to evaluate the characters. So you would want to apply your moral lens, your moral criticism, to the characters in the novel. So something that we would have done before is to make a list of all the key events in the novel in chronological order. I would have divvied up the novel to you in groups and given you a big piece of chart paper, and you would have done a little timeline for us to refer to as the unit progresses. And then you can, after you've done that, take a look at the actions of the three main characters. The point of the timeline is for you to be able to kind of track a character's morality. So if in the beginning of a story you find that, just for complete example, Winston is behaving more morally than he is at the end of the novel, then that's significant. So taking a look at the key events in the novel in chronological order will kind of help you track, if necessary, any sort of changes in morality in the main characters, or you know, um, you can kind of track their arc in that way. So, basically, you would want to take a look at, I suggested three of the main characters, Winston, Julia, and O'Brien, and you want to take a look at the things that they do in the novel and make a judgment. Again, morality is based, you're judging their morality based on your idea of it, your all your biases and whatever else included, and that's fine. So you want to take a look at the actions they do and kind of categorize those actions as moral, immoral, or amoral. And if you do that for all three, perhaps you can find a pattern. Perhaps, you know, Julia is an extremely moral character and Winston is highly amoral. Who knows? But by going through their actions, and looking at each one of those through a moral lens, using moral criticism, you might be able to find out something interesting about the character or the story. And that's the whole point of these criticisms, as I mentioned before. You want to use these criticisms to focus your attention on something in the book. And that's all well and good. But if you do that and you focus your attention on something in the book and you're not able to make an observation or make a point about the book using that, then it's probably not the best one to use to construct an essay. Okay? So Winston, Julia, and O'Brien, look at their morality. Remember, look at the motivations and the consequences, not just the action. So the motivations for Winston starting his journal, are those moral? Are those immoral? Amoral? Whatever. Remember, there's three parts: the motivation, the action, and the consequences to consider. Okay? Moving sort of to considering the book as a whole and leaving aside the characters themselves for a moment, we want to take a look at the moral issues in the story. Remember, moral issues are or sort of issues in the society that's depicted in the novel. So what's moral, what's immoral in that society? Are there any issues of morality present in the society in 1984? I would suggest there are a lot, since there are a lot of things that are considered wrong, in the book. And you want to take a look at those issues and consider these questions here. How do the characters handle these moral issues during the novel? Re-examine the events for specific evidence. What messages about the issues is the author sending the audience about these moral issues? So essentially, you're taking a look at the moral issues in the society and considering how those characters react to it, deal with it, etc. And then lastly, you want to consider if there are any messages, and I think there are lots of messages in 1984, what messages the author is sending the audience. So what was Orwell trying to tell you, the reader, about anything based on sort of the morality depicted in 1984? Okay, so those are things to think about. Again, point form, jot notes, just think about them, consider them, and then you can move on. Now, if we were in class, we would have, if you were down, had a bit of a rap battle. That's gone really well in the past. It's gone really cringily in the past. Either way, we might have done it, we might not have. But anyway, that would have been the first sort of chunk of our 1984 unit where we look at morality. So anyway, either Thursday or Friday, I'll do another one of these, and we will move on to psychological criticism. So stay tuned for that. Hope everyone's well, and I will talk to you later in the week.